Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Project Veterans Voices. I'm your host, AJ Cox, and today we're doing a continuation with John Crouch's story. So I'm looking forward to it. He tells a great story. But if you're enjoying these podcasts, make sure you go hit up the website. That's the Lost Art Project, veteransvoices.org. Go see what we're all about. And if there's any way you can help us out, it'd be much appreciated. Big shout out to the Valhalla Project out there doing amazing things. If you don't know anything about them, go check them out. Even if you do, go back and check them out again. I'm telling you. One amazing organization. You can always find them at tillvalhallaproject.com. And I'm adding this in here, but for anybody out there that may be doing a transition out of the Marine Corps or you are trying to just get your veteran stuff set up through the VA, now the Marine Corps League has their VSOs, so you can always find them at mcleague.org. and hit the VSO locator, or you can dial 703-207-9588, extension 299. That will put you in contact with somebody there, and they will be able to help you out. And it is specifically for the Marine Corps League, but they'll do anybody. It does not matter branch of service. Are you a Marine veteran? Are you missing that bond you had on active duty? Then I have a place for you. Join the only congressionally chartered Marine Corps Veteran Service Organization, the Marine Corps League. Get that brother and sisterhood back in your life. Become one of the fewer, the prouder, a Marine Corps League member. And we are back. We got John Crouch, first sergeant retired. He is back with us, telling some amazing stories. I've got to be honest with you. I have thoroughly enjoyed you coming on here, telling some stories. I got to get you on a fireside chat with us sometime. I think you would enjoy that. It's just a good time, and you would fit right in with everybody, I think.
Well, I'm glad to know I'm not the only one in need of mental health. So
very nice. Very nice.
Well, last week when we were talking, we ended where I had finally arrived at Navy Officer Candidate School, Pensacola, Florida.
Yeah.
I started touching into those stories. And when we ended this session, I thought, man, it just seemed like Parris Island went by too fast. And so I went back and listened to the two previous episodes where we talked about Parris Island. And I looked at my list. I go, no wonder. There's a lot of leftover baggage that we have to go back and pick up. So we are going to jump and get on the train, head back up to South Carolina, stop at Parris Island.
Very nice.
The land that God forgot. The sand was 18 inches deep. The sun was blazing hot. Some of us know that cadence.
That's good.
So,
I love it.
Intensity. I absolutely love and appreciate any Marine drill instructor who projects themselves in an extremely intense manner.
Right.
And they don't have to be a drill instructor. I don't care what their job skill is. Well, back then we used to have something called mess and maintenance. For 7 days, your recruits were either on permanent base cleanup where they pick up litter and do other menial tasks, making the place look beautiful. And that's only one platoon. And then the other 7 platoons, well, they're going to be at one of the mess halls, serving food and cleaning the chow hall. And so 3rd Battalion, I loved when my platoon had mess duty there, because the sergeant in charge of the mess hall, the chef, his name was Sergeant Harris.
Okay.
And he had never been a drill instructor, but he would have been a natural. I mean, the way he projected himself, those recruits knew that just because their drill instructor wasn't present didn't mean that there was not somebody to take his place. So it's day one of bringing my platoon over there to drop them off to Sergeant Harris. And he had a different demeanor about himself. He was out by himself in the cafeteria where we normally would sit and eat food.
Right.
But it was not serving hours at that moment. And he was slouched back. He was not in his usual command presence. I says, how's it going, Sergeant Harris? And he just carefully rotated his head. And he says, doing okay. barely hurt him.
Yeah.
I'm looking at him, and his right eyeball is completely red, absolutely bloodshot red. I've never seen an eyeball contain so much red in my life. I says, Jesus, what happened to you? I was yelling at recruits like I always do, and I popped a blood vessel in my eyeball. So what you see is blood that is completely saturated my eyeball. And it's because when you are screaming and yelling, you're creating pressure inside your head. And it had to go somewhere, and I had a weak vessel, and it popped in my eyeball and flooded my eyeball with blood.
Oh, and, nice. Holy
so
cow.
Now I'm scared. He's the first person I've ever come across that's had a blown eyeball. And I was like a damn chihuahua. I mean, all I did was bark and create chaos. And
right.
I don't want to have a freaking blown eyeball.
So yeah, no kidding.
I had no idea if he ever had a full recovery from it or not, whether he got to stay in the Marine Corps. But it always stayed with me. And many years later, no, not many years later, about 3 years later, when I was on my second tour at Parris Island, the company chief drill instructor for Alpha Company, 1st Battalion, was Master Sergeant Alfred, but he goes by L. Karam, Karam.
Okay.
And outstanding, impeccable Marine. And one day I'm out there on the parade deck in front of 1st Battalion, where our barracks were. And at the far end, closest to what is now the parking lots that are on the side. And I had learned how to shallow breathe while endlessly yelling without ever stopping for a natural breath. I had learned how I could take air in, and I'm expelling it, no problem, but I was able to keep that airflow coming in so that I always had oxygen to do my job and project my voice. So I'm lost in the moment, tunnel vision, screaming and yelling at close order drill. As in hindsight, as if that's ever going to make them relax and perform well. But all of a sudden, I feel a hand on my shoulder, and it's him. And he says, "Breathe, Staff Sergeant Crouch, breathe." So he heard me inside the company office on 2nd floor, Alpha Company, and looked out there and noticed that I was never breathing or taking a natural pause, that I would just had this endless stream of noise. And so, one, probably out of concern for my health, and probably number 2, concern for my career, because a drill instructor that's yelling without pausing is likely to say things that will get him in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
And if he can hear me, who the hell else can, right?
Yeah.
And, so I appreciate him very much. We're still in touch. We love talking with each other. I have a note here that I've been looking at since our first podcast.
Yeah.
Some point I'll talk about it. But the title is My Rules for Being a Successful Drill Instructor.
Uh-oh.
I vaguely remember about 6 of them, but I don't remember all 25 or whatever it was.
Oh, wow.
I wrote that at the end of my first tour, and I gave it to all the new drill instructors checking in.
Nice.
But we'll talk about that at some point when I can hopefully remember or find the document that I created in 1988. And,
wow.
So
they probably all still apply today.
Well, not in today's Marine Corps. They want a different culture. And I mean, some of them I think, they don't have a problem with, but, in fact, I'll talk about one of them, and it'll roll right into a story. So I think I was on my first tour, and I had this thing. I can't stand the sound of heels scuffing the deck forward.
Right.
A lazy recruit, which is all of them, and a lazy drill instructor, which is many of them, they shuffle their feet forward. They don't throw their foot in the air and strike concrete, chipping away with the heel of their boot. creating
Right.
thunder every time they march. And whether it's intentional marching or just simply moving forward, you should do so with great intensity. And but please don't do that if you're in an apartment or you're at the hotel. You're going to drive everybody nuts.
Yeah, that's true.
So I told my team, that's right, I was a senior drill instructor. So it was either, I think it was platoon, who knows? It doesn't matter. I said, do not scuff your feet. I will embarrass you because I'm not going to wait and find out who the hell's scuffing their feet. And when you speak with a command presence. You don't speak softly. So it's evening. We're doing evening cleanup. And before we did that, we had to go in a big wagon wheel and drop something off. Maybe it was boots and shoes for the cobbler. Who knows? But we were doing something. And I heard stuffing. And the recruits had already stopped marching. It was only the drill instructors, the two of them.
Oh, no.
They were out there stuffing their damn feet. And as soon as I stuck my head out onto the quarterdeck from my office, I says, pick up your goddamn feet, set them down like a man.
Oh, jeez.
So they just got neutered in front of their platoon. Now it's their own damn fault. I'm not going to take time to find out who the hell scuffed their feet and determine is that an appropriate demographic group to correct in whatever format. I told them at the start of training what they can expect from me, and that is we set the example. And so then later on that evening we were doing evening cleanup, and I was in the gear locker, which is off the quarterdeck where they keep supplies. And I walked in there to inspect the progress and the cleanliness and the structure and organization with the recruit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm lighting his ass up. All of a sudden, I hear a squad leader out there on the quarterdeck giving feeble-minded instructions. It sounded like, Mr. Rogers, welcome to my neighborhood. It did not come across as threatening. Well, I expected my guide and squad leaders to mimic the drill instructors.
Right.
So I stepped out and I jutted my right arm forward, my fingers extended and joined with a knife hand. I says, open your fucking mouth and sound off like a man. It was a drill instructor. One of my drill instructors, a new one. And so this will allow us to transition into Nick. Did you ever hear Nick, the new guy in charge?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I've got a lot of stories about Nick. And see, that's refusal to train. Here you're. Oh man, it's amazing how stupid we all are as young drill instructors. I said before, I don't ever want to meet another recruit from platoon 1026. My first platoon as a drill instructor. Yeah. Because we had so much growing to do in that first platoon. So, and here's what I wrote. I said, we all have a first day on the job. And even for veteran Marines who become drill instructors, they too will have awkward first moments as they develop their craft of creating Marines. At Marine Corps Recruit Depot Paris Island, we referred to new drill instructors as NIC, pronounced N-I-C-K, but spelled N-I-C. It stood for New Guy in Charge. The word guy does not get an abbreviation. So it's just new in charge, new guy in charge. Often followed by hat, which is in reference to the campaign cover worn by drill instructors. When speaking directly to a Nick, the more experienced drill instructors would say something like, what the fuck, Nick? Or, nice going, Nick, as a sarcastic reply to something done that was a screw up. Even very experienced drill instructors would be called Nick if they screwed something up. Nice. I had 4 years experience as a drill instructor when I showed up to Pensacola. I had more experience than every single drill instructor there but one. And so they were calling me Nick because I was a heat magnet. I was always in trouble. I was always getting reprimanded because we know what the limits are. And then I would go ahead and push it further.
Yeah.
If I was a test pilot, I've been breaking a lot of airplanes and have to eject. And so here's some observations of mine to include my own stupid mistakes that I will share, but the names of those other drill instructors will be changed to protect their reputation.
Nice.
One of them, coincidentally, is connected to me as of 2 days ago on Facebook.
Oh, nice.
Now I can see people going out there. There's 1,000 some people here. Which one of these could it be? So one is called The Monster. I was working recruit receiving, and the chow halls on base all had a similar layout. The area for the drill instructors to eat was near the center of the chow hall. It was a forbidden area for recruits to look at, let alone approach or enter. One day while working as a receiving drill instructor, I witnessed the unthinkable. Receiving platoons are either the first platoons in the door or the last ones. It is important that those platoons already in training are not delayed in meeting the training schedule. Yeah. This morning, I marched 2 new platoons by myself to the chow hall for the last breakfast meal being served. Being that they were a receiving platoon, it was customary practice to march 150 to 225 recruits alone because of the lack of drill instructors at receiving. Uh-huh. Each platoon only had 1 drill instructor assigned for the 4 to 9 day period of receiving, and often we would cover for each other so we could do our errands, such as prepare uniforms, get haircuts, and such. All the training platoons had finished their breakfast and had already left the chow hall. Only the 2 receiving platoons were on deck. One of the recruits was a monster of a human being. He was an African American who must have been at least close to 7 foot, but it was more than his height that was noticeable. He was massive with muscles, not lean and cut like a bodybuilder, but more like a champion rodeo bull. He carried an incredible aura of self-confidence and a facial expression of, "Don't fuck with me." He always looked pissed off in the first couple of days that I saw him. The recruits were seated and eating their food. I sat down at about 2 tables from the only other drill instructor in the building. I did not know the sergeant, but he was maybe 5'6" and 140 pounds, just 2 inches shorter than me and about the same weight. I noticed the sergeant kept turning his head to stare at the monster. I admit, it was almost hypnotizing to look at this recruit. Your imagination just ran wild thinking of what challenges lay ahead for the team of drill instructors that were going to train him and wonder what type of Marine he would be after graduation, should he make it.
Yeah.
You saw the movie Shawshank Redemption. And no, it was The Green Mile, the movie The Green Mile.
Okay. Yeah.
That big monster of a prisoner.
Yeah.
John Coffey. That's kind of like his imposing persona and physical presence that he had.
Wow.
After maybe 4 minutes, I caught a peripheral glimpse of the monster stand and began walking to the drill instructor's seating area. I assumed he had a request to make of me, such as permission to use the head or get more food. But he walked up to the short wall and closed off our seating area and looked at the other sergeant and said, "Do you have a problem with me? Why are you staring at me? Do you have a problem with me, Sergeant?" I did not want to undermine the sergeant's position of authority over other recruits by interfering, but the sergeant turned white and looked at me for help. I immediately jumped up from my seat and began berating the monster recruit, challenging his confidence and cussing him out and telling him to return to his seat. The monster said, "Okay," which was still not good enough for me, and I continued to correct him until he locked his body up and shouted, "Aye, aye, sir!" Once he was out of earshot, I looked at the sergeant with disgust and told him to never let a recruit think he can intimidate a Marine, especially a drill instructor. I told him he looked at me like I was his date, and he wanted me to save him. He didn't say a word. He just sat there for about 30 seconds, got up to turn in his food tray and leave the chow hall. He must have lost his appetite. After marching the recruits back to the receiving barracks, I brought the monster into the drill instructor office and berated him again in front of his assigned receiving drill instructor because it was not my platoon.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Unfortunately, PT and the dog shit out of recruits is not permitted at Paris Island while in the receiving phase of boot camp, because if it were, I would have tortured his ass until I was tired.
Yeah.
So you ever had a monster of a recruit in your experience?
Not that big. No, 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 no. I had a professional football player. He played, I think it was 2 or 3 years. And then he came in. Now he was about my height, but man, he was jacked. He was a big dude. But he wasn't like a monster of a guy, but he was a lot of muscles. We'll say that.
So the professional heavyweight boxer, Riddick Bowe, you remember him?
Yeah.
He went to Parasite boot camp.
Okay.
And got kicked out. So
I did not know that.
Adapt too well with people that he felt he could beat up, getting in his face. And I'm the heavyweight champion of the world, and now I'm having to listen to Barney Fife here. So the Marine Corps, before they even let him join, they had long, lengthy conversation with him about what would be expected of him. And the Marine Corps decided that, it's in our best interest just to get him the hell out of here, because failure to adapt, why create media issues that would make the media, should there be altercations?
Right.
So the next story about Nick.
Move.
Yeah, the next story about Nick, new guy in charge, is the brand new cover. Now, anyone who has ever touched a Marine Corps drill instructor campaign cover, and known as a field hat, is a proper name for it. They are rigid and hard. You can hurt people with them. And so then you've got the drill instructors who've been wearing a campaign cover for 18 months. And that thing is soft like it's made, 17 cattle drives across the prairies and in all kinds of weather. And one thing about Marines, we don't ever put a condom on our cover, also known as a rain repellent thing. The Air Force and the Army do, but not the Marine Corps. It has been the symbol of the Marine drill instructor since 1956, our most iconic uniform item. And all Marines covet the opportunity to wear it. On this particular day, all 4 platoons were in the squad bay receiving a class from the series commander. There were 8 of us, 2 drill instructors from each platoon, in the senior drill instructor office. One of the drill instructors, whose campaign cover was very soft from many months of wear in the sun and weathering from the rain, decided to bend the front of his cover upward and push the front edge of the brim underneath the large Marine Corps emblem on the front of his cover. He was clowning around, and he looked like some Army idiot from the old TV show of Misfits called F Troop. And that's from the 1960s and 70s, that old TV show.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, the new hat, thought he would ride on the coattails of charisma and made the most egregious error ever. He bent the front edge of his bill of his brand new cover upward, just like the old veteran drill instructor, only that when he bent his cover, it snapped off the front of the bill. It was loud. It was funny. And Nick was not laughing. He was speechless. For the rest of us, we were roaring with laughter because every drill instructor is only issued 2 campaign covers, and you must go to the sergeant major to get your chit signed, requesting a replacement cover with his written authorization, and nobody would want to face the sergeant major for making such a stupid mistake in their first week of being a drill instructor. His remaining options were surviving with only 1 campaign cover, difficult, or go spend $80 and buy a new one, which was a lot of money in 1987. It's probably close to $300 today.
Oh, man, that's great.
So the next one, I changed the names, of course, to protect the idiots. Sergeant Weakness. Sergeant Weakness, false name, was an odd sort that, in my opinion, should never have been a drill instructor. I don't know if he was a volunteer or not. Back in the late 80s, most drill instructors were not volunteers. They were assigned orders to the drill instructor school by the traveling screening team. Sergeant Weakness, however, did complete drill instructor school and was assigned to work in my platoon. He was a frail kid, maybe 5'5" and 130 pounds. I noticed immediately after the first couple days that he was going to have a hard road ahead. He was effeminate in his body language and soft-spoken. When he yelled, it was like listening to your aunt telling you to go to bed. His voice was not filled with conviction. While in the chow hall one day, I saw Sergeant Weakness up against the metal railing that created sort of a corral or a barrier for the recruits lockstepping in front of the serving line to receive their food portions. Sergeant Weakness should have been at the finish end of the line to inspect trays for a well-balanced diet, not near the middle, looking at the recruits as they lockstep down the line. However, the real problem that I had was his location, other than his location, was his posture. He turned his palms upward, leaned into the railing with one leg bent inward and his wrist pointing upward. Instead of exhibiting the strong body language of a predator waiting to pounce, he looked as though he were a woman eliciting a flirt from the boys. There was nothing about him that evoked aggression. I pulled him away from earshot of everyone and corrected him about his body language and ensured he got the message. I said, you grab that handrail with two palms down. You're gripping it shoulder width apart. You're ready to leap over it and pounce on somebody. You need to be a silverback gorilla and you are the king. And his frequencies of his displays of weakness were becoming quite a nuisance. Most drill instructors make terrific gains in the first couple of weeks. Sergeant Weakness did not seem to make any headway. Starting in the first couple of days, he began pestering us with feedback of how well he was doing. I told him, Devil Dog, we only tell you what you do wrong and how bad you are fucking up. Don't expect any compliments because there aren't any given out at Parris Island. He had sad puppy eyes. Just a reinforcement of his poor fitment for duty as a drill instructor.
Yeah.
During week 2, he would ask one of us drill instructors around 1600 when we thought he would get to leave and go home because his wife wanted to know if he would have dinner with the family. I thought I had made it crystal clear that he should never plan on going home prior to taps, which for most nights was 2030 or 2100. I felt bad for the new guy, but I was not going to show it. I had to develop a hard edge fast. No, he had to develop a hard edge fast if he were going to survive this tour. I also had been working on his command voice. He lacked conviction when he spoke, and he often wanted to use a peer-to-peer voice when speaking to recruits. Wrong. When you are a new drill instructor, you're expected to speak in a ballistic voice that pierces the soul of the recruits. When I would catch him screwing up, I would call him away from the other recruits and correct him, which is becoming a few times a day. It takes about 3 to 5 weeks of working lights to lights. Reveille to taps is another term.
Right.
Before your senior drill instructor will allow you to spend the night alone on duty and go home at a decent hour after 1930 on average, when it is not your duty night. Drill instructor teams are not too tolerant of a new drill instructor who can't get on the duty rotation cycle to remove the burden of duty from the other 2 or 3 drill instructors on the team.
Yeah.
Another reason to lose patience with a Nick is when Nick asks the aggressive spirit personified by drill instructors of creating Marines, there is no room for the introverted, the quiet drill instructor. No, sir, we will make him aggressive if it kills him in the process.
Yeah.
Now, one technique to get a weak or slow learning drill instructor up to par is to take him beyond working lights to lights. We would set up a second bunk rack over the single rack in the senior drill instructor office, so it would become a bunk bed. Every night, 24/7, old weak-ass Nick is with the platoon and the other drill instructor on duty. He has to explain to his wife, if he has one, why he is not permitted to come home and see her or the children. I have seen this method work miracles in 4 to 8 days. Yes, sir, Nick is a born-again hard-ass when he can't see the wife or family. That would never be tolerated in the recent decades, I assure you. So tell me, when you're at during your time at San Diego, you ever have weak drill instructors that end up being put on lights to lights like that?
Yeah, well, I got to be honest. I was my first cycle was like that. I was not used to the environment at all, and it took me a little bit to figure it out. But I did. I figured it out. But they gave me a hard time starting out for sure.
Well, good. And you're commendable in the fact that you're willing to admit your own growing pains and mistakes. And a lot of people get out there on podcasts or talking whatever. You think they never made a mistake in their life and they were perfect from day one.
I am far from that. I'm full of mistakes.
I'm not sure if I said it during the second podcast when I talked to third podcast when I went to drill instructor school, but we had these two clowns who were buddies, and they had studied for about a year in advance. Someone gave them a copy of the drill manual and taught them about how you have to memorize the teach backs every week and the SOPs. So all they did was focus on being prepared for drill instructor school. And when they arrived for the entire length of school in the classroom, they sat straight, head and eyes straight, 1,000-mile stare, no slouch, no movement, no relaxation of the shoulders. And then they would rotate their head sharply on a snapping movement, as though this somehow is the epitome of the perfect drill instructor school student. One of them graduated, honors graduate of drill instructor class 1-87. So if you're at Parris Island's drill instructor school and you look at the plaque by the rear exit, look up there and you'll see class 1-87. You'll see the name of the Marine that was our honor grad. He quit in like maybe 8 weeks, 9 weeks. He turned in his duty belt and cover. He says, I can't do this.
Really?
Yes. So he's good for taking tests and being in a classroom environment. But as you know, in hindsight, DI school was easier than being a drill instructor.
Yeah. Yeah. Quite a bit easier.
Yes. But so keeping a drill instructor at the job 24/7 is no longer tolerated by the chain of command. Sad to say, I just can't imagine a written or verbal counseling being as effective to create the necessary change. One evening, the recruits were engaged in a field day, also known as cleaning house. During these daily events, that's when I told you about I was in there and I heard effeminate speaking. It was Sergeant Weakness.
Oh, yeah.
Open your goddamn mouth and sound off like a man. I ended up having to get him transferred to another platoon because I explained to the series gunnery sergeant, chief drill instructor, I said, he can't recover in this platoon. He needs to have another clean shot. And he got handed from platoon to platoon to platoon. I can't remember whatever became of him.
Wow.
But, now, this one I didn't witness, but it was told to me by a very close friend of mine. He's at Parris Island during his first tour.
Yeah.
The story is called Oxygen Depletion. One of those rare stories that I share that I was not witnessed to involve, that involved a Sergeant Jones, false name, AKA Nick the New Hat. He was in the squad base screaming up a firestorm of instructions for the recruits to get their scrub brushes, move to the starting position behind the rack, squat, and begin scrubbing all dust and dirt to the center of the squad bay by duck walking, which is squatting without knees or the free hand touching the deck. Everything is done by the numbers in recruit training. None of this automatic pilot crap that you might envision. And tonight, repetition was the order of the day. Over and over and over, Sergeant Jones yelled the instructions, and the recruits yelled in reply while attempting perfection of each required action. Sergeant Willett, real name, close buddy of mine, who, and by the way, Willett's first name was Shell, but he went by Todd from Wyoming. Great drill instructor. He was the more experienced drill instructor, and he was standing around watching and making corrections to recruits when, in mid-sentence, Sergeant Jones stopped yelling and collapsed. Sergeant Willett immediately gave the command, "Scrub brush bulkhead, move!" And of course, they run back to the bulkhead behind the racks. They're squatting down. They're waiting for the next command. And so Sergeant Willett, he thought that Sergeant Jones had passed out from oxygen depletion while yelling. So he grabbed him by the duty belt and dragged him into the SDI office and shut the door, returning to the recruits to finish the floor sweeper procedures instead of checking for, I don't know, life, such as breathing. Meanwhile, Sergeant Jones awakened while laying prone on the floor just before the SDI returned, and he couldn't explain what had happened to himself. He had no memory of the event. Sergeant Willett returned to the office to check on Sergeant Jones and explain to both Sergeant Jones and the senior drill instructor what had happened. Nick ran out of oxygen.
Now that's good.
It is. This story is called Tarzan. Right, new drill instructor, but he happens to be a senior drill instructor, staff sergeant.
Okay.
Drill instructors love to show off to recruits how well they can do something. It was the first week of training for the new series, 4 platoons in the lead series and 4 platoons in the follow series. And we were all on the PT field for morning PT. We were scheduled to do the circuit course that morning. One thing about Marine leadership is we demonstrate everything we want our subordinates to do. On this training day was an introduction to the circuit training course. There were 16 stations on the course, and as we moved from station to station, the junior drill instructor from each platoon would demonstrate as the series chief drill instructor explained the correct way to do the exercise. Mm-hmm. When we were at the rope climb station, one of the drill instructors grabbed 2 ropes and pulled himself upward without using his feet, demonstrating raw upper body strength with 1 rope in each hand. He was about 10 feet up when he let go of 1 rope and used his feet to lock into the other rope and support himself. When done correctly, the rope climber only requires 1 hand on the rope to maintain vertical position. And the feet are what lock him into place and keep him from sliding downward. Drill instructors brief everything before we demonstrate for recruits. The series gunnery sergeant had instructed the 4 demonstrators. Listen up for my key phrase. Let go of the rope with 1 hand and to execute immediately the release of 1 hand from the rope to demonstrate how easy it is to support yourself on the rope with 1 hand and a foot lock over the rope.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, Nick, the new hat, had already ascended the rope and had locked the rope with his feet and let go of the rope with 1 hand while waiting on the series gunner sergeant to catch up with him when he heard the key phrase, let go of the rope with 1 hand. And without thinking, he let go of the rope and he immediately tipped over, landing on his head. It seemed everyone, recruits and drill instructors, busted out laughing because in his attempt to look cool to his recruits, he screwed up and made an ass of himself. And
wow.
Lucky he didn't snap his neck.
No kidding. Holy cow.
Yeah. He's about 10 feet up. And I know people who, not personally, but on job sites that died coming off a 6 or an 8 foot ladder, hitting the ground. This one's called Knocked the Fuck Out. The new drill instructors are always tasked with demonstrating techniques to the recruits as the more experienced drill instructors give the verbal instructions. One day at Leatherneck Square, where they teach hand-to-hand combat, all 4 platoons of recruits were seated on the ground watching 2 close combat instructors explain and demonstrate fundamentals of mixed martial arts. Meanwhile, all the drill instructors are about 20 yards behind the recruits, remediating amongst themselves and a few of the close combat instructors. Being that I was the series chief drill instructor, I had pulled the new drill instructors aside before the event and forewarned them that the close combat instructor would offer you to do it full speed after doing it by the numbers. Don't do it. Don't let the other drill instructors punk you out. All that will be accomplished is you will get hurt. I just had this feeling someone would give in to peer pressure. Sergeant Dixon, false name, was a short, stocky drill instructor. He had a good nature about him and was very likable. The close combat instructor who oversaw remediation of the drill instructors was a huge Samoan staff sergeant. The Marine was built like a grizzly bear, but those of us with time on Parris Island knew of his legendary hand speed. The guy had some of the fastest hands I had ever seen. The task at hand was for Sergeant Dixon to take an 8-inch rubber hose as a simulated fighting knife and rush forward toward the monster and thrust the knife upward into his abdomen. The 2 of them had already practiced demonstrating step by step with significant pause for explanation. for each move, and then did it with the movements put together at a slow, continuous speed. After a couple of good demonstrations, the monster asked, "Does anyone want to see it done full speed?" Of course, all the drill instructors present said, "Yes." I reminded Sergeant Dixon he did not have to do it, but he fell for peer pressure. And we all know that peer pressure can be a motherfucker.
Yep.
I even chimed in and said, to those who want to see it full speed, volunteer and demonstrate for everyone else. Sergeant Dixon was not backing down. His manhood was at stake. So as the monster and the midget squared off 5 yards apart, the monster, having noticed the midget did not raise his opposing forearm to protect his face when he would be bent forward for a knee smash to the face. Now, this is the old line program, L-I-N-E. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
You knew Marines with McMack, Marine Corps Martial Arts program. You know nothing about it. But imagine if I came running at you and I had in my right hand a knife and I was going to thrust it into your abdomen. As you get within touching distance, I take my right hand and I slap the inside of your right hand as a parry to knock your knife and hand outward of my body. And then I sweep my left arm up behind you. And of course, it eventually results in you being knocked the fuck out. So how this is going to go down, he noticed. Okay, so the monster, having noticed the midget did not raise his opposing forearm to protect his face when he would be bent forward for a knee smash to the face, said, "Sergeant Dixon, raise your forearm before you approach me. You will not have time to react." Sergeant Dixon refused the offer and replied, "I will be ready." The monster, in a rare form of patience, again pleaded for him to raise his forearm. As he was making his second plea, Sergeant Dixon let out his war cry and ran forward for the kill. The monster deflected his arm with the rubber hose by smacking it outward and then sweeping both of his hands upward and smacking the back of his head as he drove it into his fast and upward moving knee. Sergeant Dixon dropped like dead weight released from strong hands. From his limpness and the sound of the monster's knee impacting his forehead as it was pushed downward to his knee, we all thought for sure he was critically injured. I immediately started my stopwatch function on my wristwatch to know exactly how long he has been unconscious. The corpsman who had watched this unfold quickly ran up, got him into an ambulance, and then rushed him to the hospital. He was unconscious for approximately 9 minutes. When he was discharged later that day, he was given 4 days of bed rest and nearly a month of light duty.
Holy cow.
When I saw Sergeant Dixon the following week, he looked horrible. Both eye sockets were black and purple. The massiveness of the monster's knee footprint impacted his forehead perfectly. How he kept from crushing the nose was beyond imagination. Lucky for Sergeant Dixon, his wife was a corpsman. Both eyes were black and blue for 3 months before one of them cleared up. The other took nearly 5 months in all to fully heal. I've always wondered if the concussion affected his personality afterwards, as so often happens in frontal lobe injuries. Now, I had read an article years before, and it had to do with a study was done on prisoners who did hard time for murder, violence. Right. And there's a high percentage of them that have documented being hit in the head with extreme trauma from either unrestrained vehicle accident or in a workplace injury, or worse, being hit with a baseball bat in a fight or a club, but frontal lobe injury. And that the type of damage that occurs to that part of the brain affects your ability to reason and your temper. So you end up with a fast trigger response of violent rage. And of course, the movie Concussion that came out several years ago focused on that from all that head trauma from front-on head strikes in the NFL. And so it's a real thing. But I certainly hope he did not have his personality changed by that experience, which would be very unfortunate, self-induced as it was. So motherly love. One of the many joys of being a drill instructor at Navy OCS, Pensacola, Florida, was that you had multiple classes to train simultaneously, and you were the only drill instructor assigned to those classes, so you could truly put your mark on their forehead, trained by Gunnery Sergeant Crouch or Cox or whoever.
Yeah.
Cox, by the way, is an outstanding drill instructor. I know at least know two of them. However, one exception was that, unlike enlisted boot camp, where only your assigned drill instructors could punish you with incentive PT, every drill instructor at Navy OCS could punish any officer candidate, regardless of which drill instructor the candidate was assigned to. This was necessary because of the challenges of trying to train 2 or 3 classes, each at different stages of training simultaneously, and the need for immediate correction when candidates are caught screwing up.
Yeah.
Gunner Sergeant Jones, false name, had already served as a drill instructor at San Diego, Macon Marines. He was on his second tour with us at Navy OCS and training his very first class. We had indoctrinated him upon his arrival to the nuances of Navy OCS. When we shared the policy of correcting each other's candidates, we noticed he was not too keen on the concept and politely let us know he would opt out. There was no opting out. When his class was in week 2 or 3 in the battalion NCOIC, Gunner Sergeant Willett came into the changing room and said to the rest of us drill instructors, "Hey, listen up for me taking Jones's pigs to the pit. I'm going to PT the shit out of them. I will have them run past this window to the pit. It's time to break him in," him being the drill instructor.
Yeah.
A devilish grin came across his face. Classic evil. We all chuckled and cracked open the blinds so we could see the class run by. Gunner Sergeant Jones came into the changing room, and a few minutes later, we heard his class running past the window. He quickly realized his class was under attack by Gunner Sergeant Willett, the NCOIC of the battalion. Gunner Sergeant Jones was now in an awkward position. Our boss, Gunner Sergeant Willett, had a hold of his class and was administering punishment PT in the pit. It was a brutal one, probably more brutal than they had ever experienced to date, which is like adding insult to injury because no drill instructor wants his candidates to think there is a more brutal drill instructor than the one they are assigned. Gunner Sergeant Jones quickly left the changing room and ran out onto the veranda of the porch to see Gunner Sergeant Willett chasing his pigs around the building to the pit. Gunner Sergeant Jones paced back and forth as he listened to the sounds of his candidates being tortured with PT. He returned inside the building and went to the other changing room across the hallway that looked out onto the pit. Gunner Sergeant Jones kept looking out the blinds. It was hilarious because it was like watching a nervous father in the waiting room as his wife gave birth to their child. It didn't help that the rest of us were laughing and making fun of him. Finally, the torture was over. His candidates were free of the bad man, Gunner Sergeant Willett, and now Gunner Sergeant Jones had to go face his candidates. He chastised his class and gave them more incentive PT for embarrassing him. Gunner Sergeant Jones eventually crossed over to the dark side and engaged in punishing the candidates from the other drill instructor classes. But I know it was not a policy that he embraced.
That's pretty good.
So you ever, that's right. We didn't have that opportunity at Paris Island, you don't correct my recruits kind of crap.
Yeah.
But I love that whole idea, man. You could have 300 people PT in punishment PT. There was not a cap or a limit on how many, and didn't matter what point in training they were. You could PT their ass on. You could PT them on the day they get commissioned officer. And I have.
Serious? Wow.
Oh yeah, and I have. And we treat them like humans the last 2 weeks. At week 11 and a half, we treat them like NCOs in the fleet.
Nice.
And they don't have to be ballistic. They can talk to us like normal NCOs, and we have a good time because they become platoon handlers, troop handlers. They get them around from point A to point B, and they get to learn how to give orders and time management and all that kind of crap. So the drill instructor is not with all the classes all the time. And so this one's called, I got to change his name. I hope I don't screw up and call it the right name. So let's call him somebody I don't like. Nos. I love him. He's my nemesis. And he was never a drill instructor, but he should have been. So Sergeant Wrong Way Nos. Sergeant Nos was a communications Marine who had worked with Marine recon units in his career. Mm-hmm. He was a very likable Marine and loved by all the drill instructors. He had the honor of marching his first platoon for first phase close order drill evaluation competition, where the platoon and the unit leader, Sergeant Nos, would receive a score from each of the drill masters grading the event. The parade deck is approximately 15 acres. This is before the modification that shortened it in the mid-90s. So while marching the platoon across 15 acres, the graded event, he gave 2 column half rights instead of 2 column half lefts after passing the reviewing stands. Now, if you're familiar with Parris Island, when you pass the reviewing stands, if you were to make a column right or 2 half rights, you cross Boulevard de France, which is a very busy street, and you end up in 2nd Battalion. But we're 1st Battalion, and we're staying on the parade deck. And you're supposed to make a big box formation when you're coming through and doing all this parade marching, right? And he's been doing pretty good. He's probably 70% done with the drill card at this point. Column half right, march. Column half right, march. And he starts calling cadence. And all of his drill instructors in the stands start laughing. And all of a sudden, how is he going to recover from this? Because he's got a big-ass platoon. You have a short distance after your 2nd column half right to before you come at the street edge. You'd probably only have, going off of foggy memory, 10 steps at the most when the last rank of recruits finished the completed column movement before you'd have to do a platoon halt or to the rear. So in his quick thinking way, he said, "Road guards, post!"
No way.
He put into the drill card a new movement called road guards, post. So they ran out there and halted traffic so he could walk across the street, march across the street to 2nd Battalion until he could figure out how to get back. And eventually, the drill masters stayed on the parade deck. They weren't going to follow him on a tour of Parris Island. And everyone in the stands was laughing. I think his wife was there with a young child who must have been embarrassed. It's her first time. She doesn't understand, is this funny or not? But we thought it was hilarious. There's got to be a film of it out there somewhere. I would love to see it. Now, the funny thing is, he was a communications tech, and he was embedded with Marine Recon.
Yeah.
So you want to think Marine Recon, if you even associate with them, you don't make mistakes, right? And so we started calling him Sergeant Wrong Way Nutter. And hey, wrong way.
That's pretty awesome.
And then you might come up to him, and say, "Hey, man, I'm having a hard time perfecting road guards posts. What's your tricks?" So those of us watching from the grandstands were rolling with laughter. They did not come close to winning the drill trophy that day.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that was a big fat fail right there.
Huge fail.
Holy moly, that's good.
Big Needles. All right, so Big Needles story is this. Back in the late 80s, AIDS, HIV and AIDS, they were a big scary thing. Mm-hmm. We didn't have a cure for it. We knew how it was acquired. Not every time is sex. It just has to do with bodily transmission of fluids, or you have an open wound and someone who has AIDS managed to get one cell or more in you, and you're screwed. Well, we had to go get an annual HIV AIDS test, blood draw. Mm-hmm. So I had a new drill instructor with me. And so come on, let's go get our blood test. And so we went to medical, and they had it set up inside there. Of course, it's recruit medical. And there's probably 10 blood draw stations, just a little school desk chair that you sit on. And then behind that chair is about 15, 20 recruits lined up heel to toe. Okay. I said, we're drill instructors. We don't wait in line. We just come up here, and then as soon as the recruit gets out of a seat, we take the spot. Now, recruits can hear me talking to him, educating him. Big deal. They're not ever going to see this drill instructor again. And all of a sudden, I seen the fear on this recruit's face that would be next in line after the other drill instructor got his blood taken. And he just looked scared to death. And I had an idea. I know how to scare him. So as the corpsman came over, I went up and I whispered to him. I says, I need to whisper to you. So for the audience, I need to whisper to you. So he leans forward. I said, play along with me. And he looked at me. Well, he didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't want, recruits back here hearing what's going on because they had to get a distance of about, 6 feet behind the chair. And so he gets my arm prepped, puts the rubber hose around it to create blood pressure. He gets it all swabbed, gets ready to inject the needle. I go, stop! You will not put that needle in my arm. You're going to go back there and you're going to get one of the type of needles that we use for recruits because I'm a drill instructor. And we set the example around here. I said to the drill instructor beside me, I said, you see, because we are Marines, we are considered permanent personnel. And when they use a modern needle for blood draws, and it's much thinner. Yeah. Now, it has the same size opening on the interior, but the technology for recruit needles is 1950s, and the technology for permanent personnel needles is today's technology. So it's a thin wall needle that when it injects into your vein, you hardly feel it. But these 1950s technology needles, I'm talking loud, all these recruits can hear this shit. And when they puncture, you can feel the pain. It's a bitch. And so the corpsman knew what was going on. So the other sergeant follows this. Same thing here. Put that permanent personnel needle back. Give me a fucking recruit needle. And he didn't say fucking because we didn't swear that much at Paris Island. And give me a recruit needle. And so he came back, and when he made his injection, I go, oh, that's what I'm talking about. Pain, baby. And so when I was all finished, I casually looked in the eyes of the recruit that was behind the other drill instructor. He was trembling. He had sweat perspiring down his face. He has glasses, dark hair, what little hair he had on his head. But the kid was trembling, shaking like a leaf. And I can only imagine the stories they all wrote home to their parents. They used 1950s technology needles because it's cheaper than buying a modern needle. And the hole they put in us is huge. And so,
that's nice.
Refusal to train. How often did you have recruits refuse to train?
I don't think I only had it like one time.
Huh.
Yeah.
You almost had interesting free time and head calls and free time and mail call, I meant to say, for them not to want to refuse to train. I had a lot of them, man. And
wow.
Yeah. So here's one question. If recruits are not allowed to quit boot camp and they refuse to train and follow the orders of a drill instructor or commissioned officer, what do you do when you have a recruit that refuses to train? It sounds complicated, doesn't it? It doesn't have to be. We used to have some good tools that we could use, but those were taken away by the commissioned officers who wanted to ensure there was no bad press during their watch while they were in command of recruit training.
Yeah.
There are two Marines whose attitude about recruit training that I admired and often reflected upon during my days of wearing the coveted drill instructor cover. The first Marine that I admired immensely is Colonel Wesley Fox, Korean War veteran, Medal of Honor recipient, and a 43-year Marine. I have kept a newspaper clipping of the colonel and a quote from his interview that he did in 1984 before I became a drill instructor. And in that quote, and in that article, he was quoted, "I thought the old way was the way it should be. I washed out as many recruits as I could wash out. I thought that a good drill instructor did not graduate very many, end quote. Wow. I laminated that thing. I kept that on the hog board up there so that the recruits knew my attitude about life. And another one, it's a favorite quote that I have committed to my memory. It was by a general. It was either the commandant or the commanding general of Parasalin around 1960 or 1961.
Okay.
It was in response to a letter that he received from an angry mother of a recruit who was injured in recruit training. And he wrote to her, "There will never be a discount on the price of becoming a Marine," which means our training is realistic and dangerous from time to time. Now, before I get into the battle of wills between me and a very mentally tough recruit, a little background on Marine recruit training program methods for dealing with poor attitudes, sanctioned and unsanctioned methods, smart, not so smart methods, and how I engaged in a battle of wills with a mentally tough recruit who I wish I could remember his name, because I've always had a tremendous amount of respect for his courage and his stubbornness. Prior to June 1956, there was no SOP for recruit training. There was only a training schedule indicating required minimum training events that must be accomplished, but there were no rules on the conduct of a drill instructor. Many drill instructors ran the gamut from the professional by today's standards to those relying heavily on corporal punishment by the fist, open hand slap, kick, use of a swagger stick strike, physical hazing, profanity, or whatever the imagination could conjure up in inflicting physical pain or mental anguish.
Yeah.
The April 8th, 1956 drowning death of 6 recruits on a disciplined march through a muddy marsh and deep water at night changed all of that.
Yeah, very true.
One of the positive results from this tragedy was the creation of the first SOP for recruit training, along with the DI cover and a new tool, Motivation Platoon. Are you familiar with Motivation Platoon?
What's that?
Are you familiar with the term Motivation Platoon?
I am. Yeah.
So a lot of new Marines probably are not. Motivation Platoon was a special platoon where the ratio of drill instructors to recruits was near 50% versus the standard 2 or 3 drill instructors per platoon at that time, because they had a lot of 2 drill instructor platoons back then. And the senior drill instructor could send a recruit without any requirement for the chain of command to support. 3-day and 7-day assignment to Motivation Platoon required different levels of the chain of command support. Unfortunately, Motivation Platoon was disbanded sometime around 1976. I would find myself longing for the return of Motivation Platoon when I became a DI. I feel it was an effective tool for inspiring immature young men to comply with the rules and expectations of recruit training. Now, what life was like at Motivation Platoon, from the time they wake up to the time they slept, nothing but physical, exhausting labor, as though they were Navy SEAL wannabes going through Hell Week. They were high crawling, low crawling through muddy ditches. They had, if you're there for one day or your first day, if you're there longer, it would usually be 2 or 3 drill instructors per recruit. I mean, that place was loaded, and you were having information overload from multiple people screaming at you different things at the same time.
Yeah.
Another method to deal with those who refuse to train is peer pressure. Basically, the platoon would be punished for the behavior of the poor performing recruit, with the emphasis on the team and how the selfish behavior would compromise the ability of the team in combat. My own experience with this technique is about 70% of the problem recruits would comply with the expectations because they feared retaliation from the platoon in the absence of the DI's ever watchful eye. Many DIs would go so far as to openly suggest a blanket party. I would never do that. I never supported that concept. I think it's cowardly. A blanket party is when several recruits pummel a poor performing recruit while he sleeps in his rack. While the recruit is asleep, a blanket is draped over his body by 2 or more recruits. usually covering his face and torso so the victim can identify the attackers. The attackers standing on each side of the rack hold a blanket draped tight against the body of the victim, while the recruits use fist or a sock with a bar of soap inside as a weapon. The movie Full Metal Jacket showed this technique. I personally think it's cowardly on the part of those involved and always results in long-term breakdown in respect for authority and adversely affects the professional development of leadership through the career of those participants.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was going to be a victim of a blanket party near the end of recruit training, but we talked about that before, so I'm not going to talk about him. Continuing down, during my time as a drill instructor, a technique that we used to deal with those who refused to train was a military police show of force. Are you familiar with that concept? The military police show up?
I don't think so.
So Paris Island had a brig,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just a short walk from 1st Battalion, 2nd Battalion, and the police headquarters was on the opposite end of my battalion. Well, the intent was intimidation of the recruit who would not comply with the demands of the DI. Once the recruit refuses to follow the orders of a drill instructor, the other DIs would attempt to intimidate the recruit into compliance. If the recruit still refused the commands of the drill instructors, the series commander would be notified of the refusal to train. The officer himself would come to the scene and repeat the order that was being refused to the drill instructors. If the recruit refused the orders of the series commander, the officer would walk away and call the military police, requesting a show of force. The platoon would be standing in immediate proximity at attention. These events almost always would happen inside the squad bay. Oftentimes, the recruit refusing orders would be sitting on his footlocker while the platoon was at attention on line. Within minutes, a pair of MPs with a K9 working dog would show up. The MPs would enter the squad bay with the K9 working dog showing aggression and barking, and the MPs making statements such as, "Where's that worthless piece of shit who wants to refuse to train?" Now, they're not held to the SOP of recruit training, the military police. So they can swear. And or similar such statements would be made. Sometimes the refusal to train would sit frozen in terror, or just the opposite. They would stand up and begin showing compliance. Regardless of the actions, the MPs would use maximum force and take him down into a submissive position, prone, on their face, handcuffed behind the back, while the weight of an MP is pushing his knee into the back, and the dog handler controlling the dog within inches of his face while barking and showing teeth. The atmosphere was electrified beyond belief. Tesla could not have created more electrical energy in that space. The recruits standing on line would try to sneak a peek. Their eyes were bugging out of their sockets with the eyelids pulled back, showing the whites of their eyes. After about 1 minute of taunting the recruit with the barking dog, the recruit would be lifted upward by his handcuffs and dragged forward. Even if he wanted to comply, he was kept off his balance and dragged forward with toes dragging simply for a show of force and control.
Yeah.
The recruit would be gone for a period of 2 or 3 hours while he sat elsewhere in the base brig or military police headquarters. Finally, an officer from the command would come get the kid and return him to the company, usually with the false statement, "Your senior drill instructor believes you can make a good Marine. You're going back into training."
Nice.
Sometimes the recruit would be integrated to the same platoon, other times assigned to a different platoon within the company. One thing for certain, though, the rest of those recruits who witnessed this were the loudest, the fastest, the most motivated group of recruits on the island for the next few days. They want to be Marines, and this show of force indicated a line in the sand they did not want to cross.
Yeah.
In my opinion, this technique should only be used once per platoon. I had only witnessed it performed twice in the same platoon. However, one time there was a recruit witnessing the theatrical show of force removal of another recruit, left his position on line and shouted, "Sir, this recruit wants out of the Marine Corps too."
Oh, God.
Dumbfounded at the ever unpredictability of recruit training, the MPs seemed to take it well and forcibly removed him as well. Recruits, they will surprise you no matter how prepared you think you are.
That's pretty wild.
Now, 1991, 35 years ago, I graduated platoon 1037.
Okay.
In 2 weeks, we were going to be at Paris Island. Coincidentally, during the same days as the East Coast Drill Instructor Association reunion. Yeah. And we are going, 9 of them, total with me, are going to meet for the first time in all these decades, 35 years. And they were going back and forth on text messaging last night. And his name is Recruit Keys, Keys. He's the one that I just told the story about. Not the one who wanted to join him, but he was the one that refused the train.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So when I went through drill instructor school in October of 1986, I remember being told by DI school staff, the only tool you have in your arsenal for getting recruits to do what you want is your command voice. And if you're not careful, the officers will take that away too. How true those words were, as I personally witnessed an ever-increasing reduction in public displays of vocal rage by the DIs in my 17 years of living in Beaufort, South Carolina during my career. Too often, DIs would quietly threaten pending wrath once the platoon returned to the squad bay. My thoughts on this are basically, what the fuck? I believe these threats of wait till we get back to the squad bay empowers the recruits with suggestions that the chain of command would not approve any public tirades of displeasure for poor performance. I don't want those recruits to feel that we're doing something we should not be doing.
Right.
The most unusual refusal to train was employing the technique of nudity. Have you ever had one?
No.
One day I was walking through the quarterdeck of another platoon when I took notice to a team of drill instructors yelling at a recruit to put his clothes back on. The recruit was calm in his demeanor and let the shouting and threats from the drill instructors roll off his back. The DIs walked back into his the senior drill instructor walked back into his office and picked up the telephone to inform the series commander. Sir, I have a recruit that refuses to wear the clothes he was issued and is standing naked on the quarterdeck. He said that he is no longer in the Marine Corps and refuses to wear anything that is issued by the military. Wow. The senior drill instructor returned to the quarterdeck and told the recruit to put his PT gear on. He was going to the office of the series commander. The recruit said he wasn't going to wear any clothes and began walking toward the door naked. The DI stopped his advance and more threats were made. Finally, the SDI told the recruit, "You're not going to see the series commander naked. Put a towel on." The recruit just stood there. The SDI said, "Hey, idiot, you won't get a discharge without a recommendation from the series commander." The recruit complied and put on a towel, and they walked down to the office of the series commander. Upon entering into the office, the recruit standing in front of the desk released his towel to display his fully nude body with the statement, "I don't have to listen to you. I am no longer in the military and will not wear any clothes made by the government of the United States." So what do all of these stories have in common, you ask? Recruit training is unpredictable. And the same solution to a problem will not work in every situation by every drill instructor and every recruit. You must follow your intuition and maintain self-control. One particular day, a recruit challenged me, and I thought I could use some old-fashioned psychology on him instead of the ever-predictable theatrical rage for non-compliance. I was a series gunnery sergeant in charge of 4 platoons of recruits and their drill instructor teams. During the second week of training, a senior drill instructor came to my office with a recruit in tow. The recruit was told to wait outside the office while the senior drill instructor entered my office. Upon entry to my office, the senior drill instructor said, "Gunner Sergeant Crouch, recruit Cox is refusing to train. He has refused the orders of my team and me. What should we do with him?" Now, by this time, the use of MP's show of force had been discontinued. I really had no tools left to use. One of my fears was always the cancer that can affect a company, series, or platoon when quitting is accepted and others see how easy it was to follow suit. I had an idea. I would use a form of punishment I read about in a book on prisoners of war, where the POW was chained to a stake and sat on a pile of rocks and bricks for several days. My technique would be a little more humane. I would modify the technique. Senior drill instructor, bring in the recruit. The senior drill instructor went outside the office and told the recruit to report into the series gunnery sergeant. The recruit did a decent report. This was important to me because it demonstrated he was still compliant and showing respect. I told the recruit to stand at ease and to make eye contact with me. Recruit, I'm going to level with you. I have no problem with you quitting boot camp. However, we don't allow recruits to quit. If we did, we would have a lot of explaining to do to Congress because we get our budget from Congress. I'm talking in a calm voice. You see, it's all about the bean counters. Officers in the Marine Corps having to show a good return on the investment of the taxpayer funds for recruitment and training. The Marine Corps is very frugal. We do a better job than any other branch of service in accountability for how we spend our training dollars. We spend a lot of money to recruit you, test you, both physically and mentally, fly you out here to Parris Island, more physicals, dental work, uniform issue, etc., etc., etc. I don't want to hear about how you or your family will reimburse the Marine Corps for the money spent if we discharge you, because we cannot accept reimbursement for training expenses. Boot camp is 13 weeks. You know that. Once you have been documented as having been here 13 weeks, we can show on the books that you have met the minimum criteria for your expenses to be justified. Now, get it through your head. You're going to be at Parris Island for 13 weeks. Now, you can spend that time in the brig or out there on my bench or with your platoon, but you're not going home for 13 weeks. I let my words soak in to his brain housing group for a minute. He looked at me and said, "This recruit refuses to train." With disdain in my voice, I said, "Fine. You will sit on my wood bench outside my office from reveille to taps every night. You will not stand, regardless of who comes within your view. All officers and drill instructors know that if you are sitting on my bench, you are refusing to train, and as such, you will not speak or stand. The only time you will leave that bench is if you are requesting a head call. Your food will be brought to you. If you need water, someone will take your canteen and fill it for you. At taps, you will be taken back to your squad bay to shower and clean up, and then sleep in your rack until reveille. After making your head call and brushing your teeth in the morning, you will again come back to my bench and sit until taps. This will be repeated until you either accept the fact you are here to train and rejoin your platoon to become a Marine, or after you have invested your 13 weeks at Parris Island, at which time you will be kept here for a few more weeks so we can discharge you under other than honorable conditions. You will be considered a loser by your family and your friends because you have spent 13 weeks at Parris Island and did not become a Marine." I dismissed the recruit to go sit on my bench and shut my hatch upon exiting. I told the senior drill instructor to stay. "Senior drill instructor, you and I both know what I said is bullshit. And if the chain of command finds out, I am fucked. I don't want this getting outside the series. I will take care of informing the other DIs in the series, and I will also tell the series commander. I doubt the recruit can handle one full day on that bench." Now imagine sitting on a wood bench for 18 hours daily. You're not permitted to stand up, stretch, read, sleep, slouch. Oh yeah, there is no backrest on the bench. The bench was on the backside of Alpha Company, about 30 feet from the marsh that spread out a couple of miles to Parris Island, Port Royal. The next morning, I came in shortly after reveille, and sure enough, the recruit was on the bench outside my office. I thought it best to show absolutely no interest in his attitude and simply let the hours tick away. Day 2 ends, and he's holding strong. I'm hopeful that he tires of it soon, because if I'm found out by the higher-ups, I will be fired and charged with violating several articles of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Day 3, 4, 5, all end with the recruit toughing it out. I'm really becoming concerned for my career. The young man has more heart than 99% of recruits I've ever met. Sitting on a hard bench with no backrest for 18 hours a day is no easy task. Hell, my butt hurts when I sit in the bleachers watching a drag race. Day 6 begins, and I'm spending all my time thinking how to save face and get this kid focused on returning to training. He has missed a whole week of training so far, and I'm doubtful he will be able to pass an upcoming academic test. Around 10 a.m., the recruit stands and requests permission to enter my office and speak. I grant him permission. Sir, this recruit requests permission to return to training and become a Marine. I was stoic on the outside, but elated on the inside. I called his SDI and said, I'm sending recruit Cox back to rejoin your platoon. He is ready to train. And I heard a sigh of relief on the other end as well. He was just as responsible as I was for all that mistraining and unauthorized technique of rehabilitation. I would never use this technique again. It was too risky for one's career in a leadership billet. I was lucky the series commander trusted my instincts and didn't shut it down. And I was very appreciative that the other DIs under me kept their mouth shut. But most importantly, I knew this kid was going to be a tough Marine in how that he accepted his responsibility for enlisting in the Marine Corps. This recruit had a very tough mental attitude, and his demonstrated ability to handle a lot of pain and discomfort for 6.5 days was noteworthy for an 18-year-old recruit. Although his name is long forgotten in my memory, I would have loved to have had the chance to talk with him to let him know how much respect he earned from me and all of the drill instructors for sitting on that bench as long as he did.
Wow.
Now, can you imagine how many people called him a liar throughout his life when he told the story?
Oh, yeah.
Liar. Especially if he's telling the drill instructors and series commanders, right? Now,
wow.
Bullshit. Another made-up false story from boot camp. No,
That's pretty wild, though. I mean, he toughed it out for 6 days.
Mm-hmm. I got that one. Oh. So, you ever have any recruits go UA?
Yeah, I did have that. Yeah.
Tell me about it. Anything special?
I had one that snuck out in the middle of the night, ran out the back of the hatch. Nobody said anything till the next morning. So when we called it in, it was on MCRD San Diego. So it's pretty small and nowhere to really go. He never got on the fence, anything like that. But the MPs did find him the next morning, and they took care of whatever they had to take care on their end. Eventually he did make it back. But so yeah, that was the only time I really had somebody actually take off on me. I can
only imagine I had a dislikable personality, and a lot of recruits just didn't like me and wanted to leave. I had one recruit who managed to jump into the back of a pickup truck. The pickup truck was in the drill instructor parking lot, an open truck bed that had a tarp in there. So he pulled the tarp over himself. He laid there for an hour or two, whatever it was. And then the drill instructor took off in his pickup truck. And he was a bachelor, and he lived at the bachelor enlisted quarters at Paris Island. It was a Saturday, as I recall. And parks his vehicle in a parking lot that is nothing but NCOs, staff NCOs, and mostly drill instructors. Mm-hmm. Well, probably a distance of about 40 yards away, there's an outdoor barbecue going on, and they're cooking hamburgers and hot dogs and drinking beer and having a good time. And the sun is still up. So the drill instructor who parked his vehicle went over there to participate in the festivities. About 20 minutes later, a drill instructor said, "Jesus Christ, a recruit just got out of the back of your pickup truck." Well, the recruit did not know that the drill instructor that drove him was 20, 40 yards away, and they all could see him from there. He got out, and of course, how unlucky can you be as a recruit to get in a drill instructor's vehicle, not get off base, but to end up at a drill instructor parking lot full of drill instructors having a barbecue cookout. So he got returned pretty quick. Another one, he made it to the front gate. So we have a long causeway, which is basically a road that goes across and connects one island to another. And so the only way to get on and off that base is through that causeway. It's a two-lane blacktop. And there's a military police post at the very end of it. It's now no longer there. They moved it a couple miles inland, the post. And so this recruit is wearing Go Fasters, also known as tennis shoes. He's wearing cami bottoms and a gray sweatshirt and a shaved head. And so he's thumbing a ride. He was able to sneak past the military police at the front gate by crawling along the edge of the marshland. And so now he's out of sight of the military police who guard the gate. And he's got his thumb out while he's walking toward the drawbridge. And so a Jeep pulls up. He says, "Get on in." So he opens up the door. And as he's getting in, he realizes it's his commanding officer in our company.
Oh, no.
Well, the commanding officer had already learned that a few hours earlier, a recruit had gone UA. And so anybody who's on Paris Island or San Diego knows what a recruit looks like at 100 yards. You can pick him out. And so he managed to get picked up by his own commanding officer when he's going UA. Now, another one was mine. So I guess the idea is do not throw a party for the platoon. It was the platoon, I believe, that I'm having the reunion with next month. And we had kicked ass. We took the range trophy, and which is great. Senior drill instructors typically will tell the drill instructors to get the hell out of here, and they'll celebrate with like a pizza party or something like that. For one time in their life, show them some type of kindness. So I bought into that. That evening, a recruit of mine snuck out of the squad bay and went UA.
Okay.
Discovered it Reveille. Now I'm pissed because the fire watch didn't do a proper head count, right, and account for all the bodies. So they're all going to get tortured. I report that I've got a recruit missing and don't know how long he's been missing. And so everyone on base is now aware we've got a missing recruit that went UA from the rifle range. They continue to look for this recruit. They believe he got off base somehow because 5 days is a long time to be stuck on the base when you're a recruit. You got no money. Yeah. And it was cold that time of year at night. So he gets caught. He gets caught at the military police parking lot. So of all the dumpsters on base, he chose their dumpster to dive and look for food. And he was subsisting, and it sounds corny, he had donuts. Military police, donuts, spoiled, the ones they didn't want in the dumpster.
Yeah.
And under interrogation, he told us where he was hanging out at, which is right across from, it's the circuit training course that used to be across from base housing in front of 3rd Battalion, as though you were heading back toward 2nd Battalion. And so there was several porta-johns that were lined up at the tree line that recruits had used during PT. So that's where he was hanging out during daylight hours, was in a damn porta-john. And then in hours of darkness, he would be out under the stars. And so he didn't go back to our platoon because he was UA. I can't remember what the hell happened to him. But wow. I'm thinking that maybe we shouldn't have a big meal together when we get together next month. See if anybody else goes.
That's good.
Now, there's a song, and it's called Flight of the Bumblebee.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your opinion of that song?
It's actually a pretty good song. I enjoy listening to it.
Would you, if you're the senior drill instructor, would you play that to motivate the recruits?
No.
Neither would I. I'd play something like George Thorogood, Bad to the Bone.
There you go. Yeah.
Back in the late 80s, right? that was like the go-to for all drill instructors. So platoon 1054, second tour drill instructor, Staff Sergeant Reese, R-E-I-S-E, infantry, single. He was kind of odd, but hey, who am I to call anybody odd? I'm sure I'm odd to a lot of people too. I said to Staff Sergeant Reese, who really did not have that persona that he can motivate recruits, I said, hey, you want me to come in and pump them up, motivate them for a final drill competition tomorrow? He said, no, I've got it. In fact, I don't want to see either one of you two until I think you said something like, 0700.
Mm-hmm.
So 0700, I'm walking through the rear hatch. All the recruits are dressed in their beautiful camouflage uniform, highly starched, and with their rifles at order arms, and they're standing at ease. And they look like they've landed in the wrong country. They just completely are miffed on the experience that they're having. There's a boom box, because that's what we had back in the day, back in 1987, 1988.
Yeah.
We had a big boom box, 2 foot wide, maybe 18 inches tall, had maybe 20 D-cell batteries. It weighed a ton. And that's how you played music on a cassette tape. And the song being played, I didn't even know what the fuck it was. And it was a instrumental being played by some instrumental band that had horns and whatnot. And, I walked I said to the recruits, I said, does this do anything for you? And they shake their head, no. I thought, what is it? Nobody knew. And I walked up to the senior drill instructor office where he's sitting in his office doing paperwork while he's playing Flight of the Bumblebee at max volume for the recruits to get pumped up and motivated. And it's supposed to be like mimicking the sound of a bunch of bees at a hive and how busy they are. And it becomes greater and greater in the intensity and the crescendo. And I guess if you're really into music, it means a lot and can pump you up. But it didn't do nothing for me and the rest of us uneducated people who don't understand quality music. So I said, what the hell are you playing? He says, it's Flight of the Bumblebee. It's a classic. A classic. Why? These kids ain't classic. These kids are 18 years old. They don't know what Flight of the Bumblebee is. He says, they do now. I said, you think that's going to pump them up and get the blood moving and be aggressive with that weapon and crush bones and blood tissue and soft tissue and cause blood? And I says, let me show you. So I went out there with my bad to the bone tape, right? I stopped his, and I pull it out, and I put mine in, and I put it in. You know how the song goes for bad to the bone. And they loved it, and they were smiling. I said, see, you're in the wrong generation.
By a long shot.
So that platoon, it was called like 2 heavies and a light. So 1 heavy is 1 experienced drill instructor who really knows what the hell is going on. The senior may or may not know what's going on. And then you have your 3rd hat, 4th hat, 5th hat, however many extra drill instructors.
Right.
So because Staff Sergeant Stovey had just got promoted to Staff Sergeant, he was going to be the experienced drill instructor. And he was good. And I should have been a heavy or the experienced drill instructor, but they put me on this platoon. So it was like 2 heavies and a light, the light being the third drill instructor down, the 4th drill instructor down. And so we kicked ass on teaching drill. And I taught the majority of the drill for that platoon. But I did not get the pleasure of taking them out. The senior drill instructor did. And so we had stack arms as a movement that we had to do, which is a complicated movement.
Yeah.
And we had like 1 or 2 stacks collapse. And we still won final drill.
No kidding. Wow.
Because the drill was that damn good. So you screw up a movement, whether the stack collapses or you just didn't do it precisely. People were shocked that we still won with like 2 stacks having collapsed, but we were that far ahead in points that we kicked ass.
Yeah.
Because
wow.
I always thought that I taught great drill. There's this short guy. common name, so I'll describe him. Probably 5'5", 2nd Battalion. His name was Bush, and a Black Marine, built like a powerhouse. And I watched his drill one day because drill instructors usually like to watch other battalions, other companies, check their drill out. And I thought, damn, I do and I don't want to compete with him, because you want to be tested. And that was some sharp drill. And we had another guy named Staff Sergeant McPherson, McPhearson. You know the name?
Well, I know a couple of McPhersons, but yeah.
Well, he was black. So he's a black guy who's on the silent drill team. So it means he hit the 6 foot mark. And so I was jealous. I only got to watch one drill session of his where he's teaching drill. And he was teaching drill in a manner I had never taught before. He wasn't yelling. He was using a command voice for drill movements, but he would never yell. He wanted drill to be fun, exciting, to be like a football team or whatever, not to be a toxic masculinity coach. There'll be a time to torture, but it's not during drill. And he told his drill instructors, don't you ever get aggressive or forceful at my close order drill sessions. You're to shut up and take notes. I don't even need you to teach drill. So I want you to become good drill instructors. And they did. They ended up having awesome drill too. But I always kept that in the back of my head. And I try to infuse that toward the last couple of drill sessions before you have initial drill or final drill. Yeah. We all get together. Hey, let's help build their confidence now. The last 4 drill sessions, very little yelling. And but that would go well for 15 minutes at most. Somebody would fuck up. We would go back to our default mechanism on correcting a problem. And then it was like sharks in the water. Oh, he started yelling, so I start yelling. Now we're all yelling. And so much for a positive, productive drill session to build their self-confidence in close order drill.
That's good.
Is that kind of what you've experienced too? Did you ever try to back off the last couple of drill sessions?
The only time that would have, like, if you weren't teaching drill, they would tell you to go away. So the heavy would have them, and everybody else would go somewhere else. That way it wouldn't get crazy. But every time I was there as the junior drill instructor, it was just constant scream, yell, whatever, make corrections, harsh corrections, whatever. And then finally he'd be like, "Hey, get out," and then we'd go take a break while he would do his thing and try to get them excited or what have you for drill.
I just thought of another one here. The Musso twins. So the Musso twins, their last name was Musso. It's some type of North African name. I don't remember what ethnicity they were, but they were identical twins, and they were in my platoon. And I did not realize that they were addicted to chocolate. They had a deep chocolate addiction. So my thing was that when we're in the field for those 10 days of infantry combat training, or ICT, also known as BWT, basic warrior training, depending on what years you were there, we eat MREs 3 out of 5 meals, or 4 out of 5 meals were going to be an MRE. So I told him, I said, get your toothbrush, show it to me now. Now I went back there and toothbrushes are up. Good. That means you will not eat any chocolate bubble gum. Chocolate gum is in the MRE to clean your teeth. It's very sticky and tacky. Therefore, you will not eat your bubble gum. I said, get your cocoa packets now. You will not be making hot chocolate. I assure you that. Throw it in the container now. Well, I caught one of the 2 Musso twins. I was walking around and distracted, and he had broke open the package and was inhaling the cocoa, the dark cocoa. So even though he was black, I could see the chalky black of cocoa all over his lips and his cheeks and his nose. And I said, "Musso, you opened up a fucking cocoa packet, didn't you, sir?" Did he? He stood up on his feet. And so I said, "Answer me." And so he says, yes, sir. And all this cocoa comes flying out, right? I said, you addicted to chocolate, boy? Yes, sir. I'm going to cure you of your addiction. I said, squad leaders, I want all the cocoa now. Give up your meal. The only thing you're eating for a meal is cocoa, right? So he had to give up all his meal. And then his twin brother stood up, requested permission to speak. And I said, what do you want, weirdo? Said, sir, and he had his MRE with him. He's offering it to you. He says, sir, this recruit would like to trade his MRE for chocolate cocoa. So I had them both sit there and break them open and start eating the chocolate, boys. Right? So they're eating the chocolate.
Yeah.
And then one of them grabbed his canteen. I said, I didn't say you could have water.
Oh,
I said you could have cocoa.
Man. That's
so
bad.
That cocoa is dried up his mouth like a sponge, right? And he has no saliva left. And now he's got this cake-like substance in his mouth. He's trying to chew it and to try and swallow it to get it down without choking to death. And probably putting myself at risk for another court-martial, manslaughter. And so they both probably went through a good 3 to 4 packets of cocoa.
Wow.
I finally let them have a little bit of water, right? And every now and then. And so their body didn't take to all that sugar, that chocolate too easily. About 15 minutes later, request permission to speak. I says, what? Request to make an emergency head call, sir. No such thing. Sit down. Because I told them in the early phase of training, we don't make emergency head calls. You request permission to make a head call. It gets granted. Yeah. You'll make your head call. I'll never deny you a head call. I'll make you pay with push-ups later on, but I'll never deny you a head call.
Right.
And he kept saying emergency head call. I says, no such thing. And, he's really squirming because that biological war in his colon is created Hershey squirts, and they're working their way to the back door. And he's doing all he can to hold and clench. And the closest that the Porta-John is probably 100 yards away. And so finally someone whispered to him, don't say emergency. So he said to make a head call. Granted, right? So he starts running with a hand on his butthole and trying to move forward. So I took pine cones. I had been collecting these pine cones because I knew we were going to get to this point. And I threw it and I said, grenade, right? And then he'd have to stop, hit the ground, feet toward the blast, and then go again. And then I start throwing big sticks, right? And that nuclear burst. How long do you stay down? 90 seconds or till all debris has stopped falling. Remember that answer? If you have a nuclear burst, you're supposed to non-shooting hand over the nape of your neck, shooting hand and rifle under the weapon, under your body, eyes closed, face in the ground, legs together, feet toward the intended blast, and then get up after 90 seconds where all the debris has stopped falling at the fallout. Right. So he eventually got out of my range of throwing things at him and made his head call. His brother wasn't too far behind him with the same effect on his anatomy. But they were cured.
Yeah, they didn't want any more, huh?
So after when I wanted everything to be intense, and some people might have a problem with what I'm going to say. Well, deal with it. I have. Evening devotions, right? Mm-hmm. You have to pick out a Protestant and you have to pick out a Catholic. Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about this, did we?
No, I don't remember that.
I didn't think so. So we make recruits do drill movements for everything. Mm-hmm. So the recruits are all in their underwear and t-shirt online, shower shoes. End of the evening, we've already done hygiene inspection. Now it's time for evening devotions. And then the next thing we do is strip the rack, get inside the rack, go to bed. So the command is, hey, readers, post. And at that point, the whole platoon stand in position of attention. The Catholic and the Protestant will both take 2 steps forward, halt, face inboard on each other, halt, and then the whole platoon goes to parade rest. And as the foot touches the deck on the execution of parade rest, the whole platoon shouts, "Kill!"
Okay.
And then they break into their 2 devotions. If you have another religion, you don't get recognition. They just screw you over. And then when it's all over with, you say, "Recover, move." And the whole platoon comes to a position of attention and shouts, "Kill." And then the lay readers both take their facing movements, march back to their position on line, about face, and then the whole platoon is at position of attention. Then you give the rest of the movements.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reason I told them why they're going to say kill. I said, just because we're going to talk about Jesus and God or religion doesn't mean that we're going to stop. We're going to stop being in reality that we are the most lethal machine in the world for enforcing our political doctrine.
Yeah.
Our only purpose is to ensure that our politicians get their way and protect the interests of this country. That's the only reason you exist, and to protect us and to enforce our overseas plans.
Right.
So I don't want you getting all lovey-dovey and thinking that you're not a killing machine. You can be religious and be part of a killing machine.
Yeah.
Well, they would complain to the chaplain, but they always said, "Please don't talk to him until after we're safe and we've left Paris Island." So the first time it happened, it's about, 5 days later, and the chaplain finds me. He said, "Sergeant Crouch, can we have a conversation?" I said, "Absolutely, chaplain." There was always a different chaplain, so they were always rotating, and I'm not sure why. He said, "Your recruits came to me, some of them, and they were speaking for the majority of the platoon, and they're really bothered by the fact that they had to shout 'kill' as the last command of execution while getting ready to jump into devotions, and at the end of devotion, start off with another kill. And is it really necessary?" I said, "Yes, it is, sir. I don't want them forever to think for a moment that they're not a most lethal force in the world, and that they may have to kill our enemies, and that you can be religious and be a good Christian or a good Muslim or whatever faith that's of someone's interest and still be part of a lethal killing machine." So yes, I think it's important. We shouldn't play games around this concept of, now we're going to talk about religion, so let's forget who we are and what we do for a living. So he would leave disappointed, and the next one would say the same damn thing, the next same damn thing, and they're probably happy when I was on quota for 7 months because I didn't have a platoon. I had receiving platoons. So but then they had to start having those conversations again with me. But I asked the chaplain one time, I says, "Chaplain, you ever get tired of recruits coming to you and complaining about drill instructors and crying and boo-hooing and sniveling and using tissue paper?" He says, "Sergeant Crouch, I do not keep tissue paper in my office. When they start crying, snotting, dropping tears, I tell them, stop, get out in the hallway and dry up. I don't keep tissue in here for recruits."
That's
so
good.
the recruits be kicked back out to the hallway. I go, "Oh my gosh, I wish all chaplains were like you." And
that's awesome.
It is. They probably found out about him and ran him out of the Navy Chaplain Corps. I think I started to tell a story a couple of weeks ago and got distracted and didn't actually finish it. It was about a redhead named Recruit Anderson. And he was requesting permission to speak at the senior drill instructor office. And the door was shut, and it was a little feeble taps, tap, tap, tap. And I thought, what the hell is this? And I put the door open. I scream and yell, and I demonstrate with my own hand on the steel door, real hard. And I open your damn mouth and sound off like a man. Right now, he kept having to do this over and over and over and over again. Well, there's something about a drill instructor and a recruit both yelling. It's like blood in the water for sharks. Right. And now drill instructors are migrating from other decks on the squad of the barracks, three-story barracks. They're coming from first deck, third deck, second deck from another platoon. Before you know it, there's me, my recruit, one of my other drill instructors, and probably 6, 7 drill instructors, all of us there screaming and yelling different things, but similar at the same time at Recruit Anderson. Recruit Anderson starts hyperventilating because he's not breathing deep enough when he's doing all this ballistic replying that he runs out of oxygen. And he starts to collapse to the ground. And now he's on his ass, and then he falls on his back, and he's going into the semi-conscious world. So I take my cover off, campaign cover. I reach in and I pull out my CPR card, and I drop to my knee, and I put it in front of his face. Probably the last thing he saw before it went dark. I said, "We are all CPR qualified, pig, but you got to be unconscious to find out if we're going to waste our time and breath on saving your life."
That's good.
We didn't have to do CPR, but it's funny how some people react to stress.
Oh, that's too funny.
4 o'clock coming up on. I got time to tell one more before we break into another episode. So the gas chamber and the cockroach recruit. Wow. Imagine, if you will, a big box of matches, the old wood matches, and they come in a slide box that goes in and out. Imagine if that box was empty, and in there you put a cockroach, a big one, right? And then every now and then you pull it open a little bit, and you see the little arms and legs, coming out of the box, and then you close it, and you open it and close it, and open it and close it. Eventually you open it and it runs away. I had such an experience myself. Now I'm on my second tour. I'm a staff sergeant, senior drill instructor. I'm put on a lot of muscle, man. I'm 160 pounds, 5'7" and 3/4. Still count the 1/4 inches, 3/4 inches until you reach 6 foot. So, because I never heard someone say, "I'm 6'2.5". No, I'm 6'2". You're round.
Right.
And so, anyways, they put me in the gas chamber, and my job is to be the door guard. So there's a 4-foot wide door with a panic bar on it. And then there's the field training unit sergeant instructor who's going to dispose chemical gases in there and give instructions. And there's probably 3 drill instructors in there to keep order and discipline for about 30 recruits. The rules are, no matter where you go in the Marine Corps or boot camp or officer candidate school, if there's a problem with your mask, drop to your knee. You will instantly be grabbed and taken out of the space outdoors. We will find out what's wrong with your mask, and then you'll get you back in. That's all you got to do. Is that what the rules were for San Diego?
No, I don't remember that.
Oh, good. So you guys didn't give a crap.
No.
I wish I could have worked there.
they just suffered through it,
So this recruit was panicking, and he simply, because it's at the point where you take your mask, break it open, you put it back down, and you push out your existing air in your lungs. And then he could taste and feel the burn on his nostrils, in his mouth, in his eyes, because he's stupid and he opened them. And so now he's really hurting. And he starts screaming. So now he's screaming, and he's trying to move forward. His mask has come off in this struggle. He hits me. I'm holding on to the door frame, and there's only 3/8 of an inch of the door frame that's metal that goes beyond the brick cylinder, the cylinder bricks, and brick cylinder or cylinder bricks. And I'm holding, and of course, this kid's pushing into me, And then the other two drill instructors grab him and they pull him back. And then now the three of them are in this struggle. And every now and then he hits me and an arm goes outside, right? And the door and whatnot. And then a leg will go outside and then an arm and a leg. And then at one point I get bulldozed and all of them run right over me.
Yeah.
And I find out some of this stuff afterwards. All the recruits who are waiting to come in are now terrified because they just witnessed this big human cockroach trying to get out of the gas chamber. And that door is constantly going back and forth. And the muffled screams that you could hear from the drill instructors who still have their mask on, but that recruit did not have a mask on. He's got snot coming out of his nose, coming past his chest, past his belt loop, and belts, because your body takes all the moisture to flood all of that poison out of your nostrils and your mouth. So he goes running, and the two drill instructors who chased him tackled him, and they drug him back into the gas chamber. I closed the door. They put the mask on him. Then they tell him and force him into his knees to make him to do things right. Then they take him outside to help him, and then they bring him back in.
Nice.
Witnessed by the chain of command, RTR, Regimental Training Command.
Oh, no.
This is a full bird colonel. And for some reason, nothing became of it. I kind of vaguely want to remember that this was the same visit where the Commandant of the Marine Corps, Alfred Gray, was present.
Okay.
And so with that, the reason I say that, because I would think the regimental training commander, Trainer was his name, or Colonel Trainer, would have tortured me for it. I think Gray said, let's get out of here, right? Because did I tell you about a recruit burning me with an M60 machine gun?
No.
So it had to been when General Gray was here, because I did not get court-martialed for that event either. Even though I was guilty for the NBC, I was simply run over. But nothing became of it. Because the other drill instructor said, hey, man, Commandant of the Marine Corps is here. The RTR commander is here. Everybody was here. And the Commandant said, let's get out of here. And nothing became of it. Well, a couple of days later, probably the next day, we were at A line. That's what it was called, because Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta line at Paris Island Rifle Ranges. And A line is where we had all the special weapons, the M60, the M249 squad automatic weapon. We had the AT-4 rocket launcher, all those, the M209 grenade launcher, all of these weapons of death and destruction where they learned to shoot them. So I'm in a firing pit with idiot recruit A and idiot recruit B, recruits A and B, and they're supposed to do a barrel change after so many rounds of ammo fired through the M60 machine gun. They have these thick asbestos gloves they put on and their wrench tool. So my sleeves are rolled up nice and tight, showing off my skinny guns. And next thing you know, here's this scalding hot, scorched red metal barrel that was branding me. I'm sure I've got a scar somewhere on my body from it. And he hit me with it. Instantly, I cussed and yelled. I took my fist as high, and I jumped up, and I slammed on top of his helmet with my hammer fist, right?
Yeah.
At the moment, the Commandant of the Marine Corps was walking right past.
Oh, man, that's
saw
awful.
me get burned, and I was cussing and yelling about that. And so when I looked up, they were now maybe 6 paces past, and I thought, son of a bitch. Again, my last day as a drill instructor. Well, my last day as a sergeant.
Well, thanks again to all the listeners out there. If you're struggling, need help, anything like that, don't forget the VA does have some good resources. You can always dial 988, press option 1. You can always text 838-255 or go to veteranscrisisline.net. Click on that chat icon. Any of those options will put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life lost is one too many. I care about you. I know John cares about you. The whole veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there, you're not struggling, reach out to the buddies you served with. Ask them how they're doing. If they need that helping hand, please give it to them. One last time, John, thank you very much. To everybody out there, stay motivated. Change your socks.
Yup.
No more 22. On to the journey and finish the fight.